Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by American retro design expert Dustin Lee and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. I'm afraid that our co-host Ian is away this week on an incredible trip, but don't worry, he'll be back with us next time. In this week's episode, we look at the benefits of working with clients remotely versus working with them face-to-face. We dig into why there really is no substitute for in-person interaction, but do give you some tips for how to mimic this personal interaction in your emails and digital correspondence with clients. This episode is a real guide for how to think about dealing with clients, and we hope that you enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. So this week we're looking at client relationships, and more specifically we're looking at the differences between working remotely with clients versus working in person. And I think the differences are actually pretty huge, bigger than many people realize. And we kind of fall into the patterns of generally doing one or the other one. And I think it would be good today just to break down our experiences with both and kind of shed some light, why it's maybe important to actually be a bit more deliberate about which one you choose, because I think there's benefits and pitfalls to both. So who would like to kick it off? Oh, actually, and before we get into it, we should definitely mention we are without an Ian today.
Oh, yeah.
Ian's on holiday.
And it is it's crazily weird, but it's a little weird, and I miss you, Ian.
We all miss you, Ian. Hope you're catching a tan.
Yeah, making us jealous. It is though. I hope the dynamic holds out. We decided we didn't want to skip a week.
Yeah.
We want to keep putting the show out, of course. But yeah, it's a different dynamic with 3 versus 4.
Watch the ratings plummet, and we discover that Ian's been floating this ship the entire time.
He's held the entire thing together.
That's why we need the little MIDI keyboard with Ian being like, I think that's brilliant, and like some different catchphrases.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I concur. Or the other thing happens, and the show really takes off to the heights.
Like he was the bottleneck, and it just opened.
Yes, it's just been an anchor on our talents all these weeks.
Oh Lord!
Oh goodness.
Sorry, Ian, if you're listening.
Sorry, Ian.
Okay, but circling back to clients anyway for this week's discussion. So I don't know about you guys, but I've done both back in my freelancing days, and just off the top of my head, I will say that I love the in-person interaction. So when you're not working remotely, when you're sat next to each other, I think you can get a lot more done a lot quicker in most cases.
Yeah.
You can just have those quick meetings, kind of get instant feedback. You don't get that bottleneck of waiting on a response for a week or any of that. So that would be a key benefit. For me, the big negative would be what we talked about in our ranty episode, why it sucks to be a designer.
Yeah.
And when I think back to my in-person clients, they really did start to take over and kind of sit on my shoulder and direct everything I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. Because they can literally walk in and creep in on, like, creep maybe is the wrong word, but they can walk in and just, creep in on you at any point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Exactly. So how about you guys? Have you got a preference or?
I mean, I look at it and I think to myself, it was really common back in the day, 10 years ago, that you would have people would mostly work with people that were local. And I remember seeing all these local web shops in my downtown area. And the advantage of it is just that when it comes down to it, when I hire contractors, I would much rather be able to sit down face to face in real person with them. You just feel like you can get a sense for a person.
Mm-hmm.
If I need something, like, you can't just disappear, whereas you can just ignore everything if you're a contractor on email and on the internet.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge advantage, not to mention if you're mostly working with local businesses, it's a gigantic advantage if you're a decent web design company or graphic design company. But yeah, then the other disadvantage is what Tom mentioned, and the fact that you're sort of making it a niche because of your geographic location, which limits you in some ways, or maybe doesn't, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I think for me, when most of my graphic design clients were, in fact, all of them were local. But once I'd established my relationship with them, I may as well have been in a different country, because you get to a point where they trust you so much that you don't really see them anymore. So you can, I think, initially, if you build that trust and you get to know them and their personality, which is the huge benefit of seeing them face to face, because people like to deal with people, so that's a huge important thing. And then once you've reached that level, you can actually just get on with the job. So I think it depends on if you're looking at a long-term relationship with them. I think if you're looking for a long-term relationship, you got to put in the effort and meet with them and sit with them and allow them to redesign everything. To a point, obviously. But yeah, I think if it's just a one-off job, a meeting could be a waste of time. I mean, I don't know. How do you guys think? Because when I used to meet somebody for like a really small job, it took up so much time. So I would have preferred an
Mm-hmm.
email, from them to say, "Hey, I just want a business card. How much does it cost? This is the info. Can you do it?" Then a whole meeting. I don't know. How do you guys feel? Isn't that a waste?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think meetings in general can be a bit of a time suck, and I think it was last episode we talked about productivity and focus and the importance of batching your
Yeah.
work, and that's pretty hard if you're sat in a room with a client and constantly getting derailed to go and look at shiny things. So I think already what I'm hearing is that the in-person stuff is going to trump email every time when it comes to building
Yeah.
relationships and probably getting the initial business. But once you've got the initial business, you can afford to back off and kind of almost work remotely, whether they're local or global or whatever
Mm,
it is. You can just get on with the work in your own
yeah.
time.
I think you get more done.
I think you're 100% right. If it's a one-off, or if it just has to be, I don't even think the meeting in person matters so much. If someone's in front of you or not, yeah, it's great if you can see them in person, and there are some advantages. But I just got this book called Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday, and he talks about how you have like building real relationships with people where they're your friends, where you just give them things and you don't ask for things in return, can be one of the most beneficial things you can do, because friends just do things for each other. So
Mm,
if you have a client and you become friends with them and you help them and just do great work for them, they're more likely, like Lisa and Tom have both done for me, to be like, oh, like here, and I just did for Tom yesterday. Be like, oh, here's
Hmm.
someone you should check out that could be help for you. And it's not a trade or charging them. It's just something that friends do. And I guess the point is that you just need to build a relationship is really what matters. And if it's easier for you to do that one-on-one, great. If not, the web's great. But it's all about the relationship.
I'm going to counter that because I think the four of us, Ian obviously not being here, but the four of us have a great working relationship and now friendship. But we've known each other for what, like 4 years or something. And I
isn't
think
that
we would
long?
have got to this point a lot quicker if we lived around the corner from each other
Oh
or something like that.
yes. Oh
It's
yes.
That's
like
true.
now we're at a great point, but if I was your neighbor, Dustin, we probably would have done, 8 big projects together, and we'd be popping around for like jam sessions or
Yeah.
something.
It would be like a sitcom. Like you'd be walking in my door and we'd be like, "What's up, Tom?"
Two designers, little theme tune.
I think that it's inarguable. You're completely right.
Yeah, so it basically it can be done. Like you can get the business, obviously, you can build the relationships and get to know your clients on a personal level. But I really do think there's no substitute for sitting down in
Mm,
person and being able to laugh and unwind and take them out for a client lunch or
yeah.
dinner or drinks. I'd imagine that's probably your favorite, Lisa, given your track record.
Drink wine, wine and dine your clients.
It's also beneficial. It cuts out a lot of stuff if you think about it. So if you're first developing a relationship with your client, face to face is a lot easier to explain your process, what you expect from them, what they can expect from you, understanding their brief better. there's, because that's the thing I don't like about email. As much as it makes the world a lot smaller because you can now email anybody in the world. It just things can be misunderstood, and because
Mhm.
you're not getting the body language and all the little subtleties that go with facing somebody in person. You can misunderstand something, you can read it
Hmm.
wrong, or the worst is, you send them a list of things to answer and they come back and they say yes. And I mean, I don't know if you've got about that. It's frustrating. So it's toing and froing until eventually you get your answer of what you need. But yeah, look, obviously,
Mhm.
if you don't have a choice and you can only do it remotely, then you need to make an effort and maybe Skyping and things like that. But definitely for me, face to face initially is a must. It cuts out so much stuff.
Perfect example of this. This is for conferences, but it applies to meeting in person. And honestly, for even working with clients, conferences can be a great way to go for this if you're working business to business. I really was trying to grow and find partners that were like my design heroes to work with. And I went to a conference, which I always thought were really stupid. I didn't understand why people would pay money and fly out to a conference. It seems so dumb to me when you could email them, get on a plane, and who am I sitting by but Von Glitchka, who wrote Vector Basic Training, one of the most popular books for designers on learning to use the pen tool and stuff like that, and very, well-known illustrator in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to sit on a plane ride with him in these cramped seats all the way there and all the way back. And by the time on the way back, we had talked and we were both talking at this conference, and he said, maybe we should like partner up and do stuff. This is a guy that I was petrified to talk to because he's such a hero to me. And I know he wouldn't have done that if I emailed him.
Yeah.
It was just because we sat next to each other eating little packets of peanuts on an airplane. I mean, you learn a lot about someone
Yeah.
when you're around them in real human situations. I mean, if you go to a conference and everyone is like pushing away from people because they don't want to be next to them because they're uncomfortable with the person, or I don't know, you just can get a very real sense of someone and they can get a very real sense of you. Can I
Exactly.
work with you for a year?
Yeah.
Am I going to be miserable or am I
Mm.
going to have a great time?
I cannot wait to meet you guys in
I
person.
know.
It seems so overdue. Like I've met Ian a couple of times now, and that was a game changer in itself because I had no idea what he'd be like. You just can't fully get it by email. And I'll give you another example. This is not so much a client, but this is a customer and community member at Design Cuts. But just this morning we had Elijah, who's one of our favorite and most loyal customers, like very, he's been with us since 2013, which is scary.
Yeah. Wow.
And he came into the office with his wife, and they're like this charming couple, and it's completely different. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's always super positive in email and comments and stuff, but suddenly they're these real people. And his wife's there being like, oh yeah, he's like obsessed with you guys, like he keeps talking about you at home. And we're there like taking selfies with him and chatting with him and hearing his ideas about anything we can do better for him, and just generally like laughing with him and getting to know
That's
him. And it's
amazing.
just
Mm-hmm.
incomparable. I was like buzzing afterwards. I was like, this is why we do it. I was like, guys, we sit in front of our screens all day and we
Right.
forget that there's real people all over the
Yeah.
world that we're actually connecting with. And that's so
Maybe
cool, I
that's the
think.
thing, is that you get like this way more three-dimensional view of people, because the person online, even if you're writing emails to them, even if you're Skyping with them, they still can plan, they can curate what they want to share with you. They can put their brand in the best light or their challenges in the best light. When you meet a person in person, you really get a sense of, where are you struggling? Who are you? I remember when I met, kind of like you, Tom. I had someone that was a great customer of mine, Johnny Gwynn, this amazing person from the South that owns a design company, and I had just seen him come up, in emails and didn't know him, and then when I saw him in person with his wife, you're like, wow, he's doing all this cool stuff, and he has his hands in all these amazing things, and the person just changes for you. They become this rich three-dimensional person with struggles and things that you didn't even know about them that they're amazing at, and it becomes so much easier to help them when you get that sense.
I feel weird meeting them in real life or with anyone where you've only known them online. It's
No, it
it's
is
kind of
really
like,
weird. Surreal.
yeah, like a couple of times in life I've seen a celebrity in a restaurant or a hotel or something, and it's bizarre seeing them. It's like, hold on, like I know your face
Yeah.
and I know your name, but you don't really know me, and it's like it's a really surreal
Yeah.
thing. And then you see when you hear the kind of backstories where it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, he's out in the garage like working with these resources he purchased, or like, it's, I don't know, I still can't get my head around it. It's kind of the power of the internet, I think, as global as it is, and it's amazing we can work remotely with so many people and clients and so on. We kind of just take it for granted. Like, we operate in these little bubbles,
Mhm.
but when you really take a second to think about what's going on and how impossible that was just a few
Yeah,
years ago,
that's
it's
crazy.
Can you imagine 20 years ago, you would be sending like, not emails, what is it? Real mail to people. And if you really wanted to talk fast, you would send them overnight express delivery with a phone call. I don't even know how stuff got done. How did stuff get done?
I think there was a lot of guessing. I don't know.
yeah, it
I don't know. It's
must have been
crazy.
so slow, but
And yet it did, and it was so good.
yeah, people adapt. But I mean, we should take advantage of the tools at our disposal, because there's never been a better time to be a designer. You know, the whole world is our market. We can jump on Skype calls, Google Hangouts. Like, you can do the
There's no
face-to-face video
limitation.
chat. You can, you can share your screen. So it might not be quite as tactile and real as a in-person meeting, but it's getting ever closer. And without being too kind of future thinking, it's not that far away that we're looking at like virtual reality and all that
Hologram.
kind of stuff. Like, soon we're going to have the headsets on, aren't we, and be sat having a coffee with the client.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. But yeah, Dustin, just going back to your point, how if you're meeting somebody in person, a lot of clients find it difficult to articulate what they want. So it's so much easier to kind of pull it out of them when you're in person, especially if you're designing for their particular company, and they're just not a staff member, but they're actually the owner, and they find it hard to say what they like and don't like. It's so much easier to get a handle of the person and the personality and what their taste would be if you met them. So yeah, I know it's not always easy because, as you said, you can design for anybody in the world. But as a designer, when I was doing that full time, I really valued those meetings because it helped. It helped hugely. It saved time. It saved a lot of time for me.
Have you noticed what someone will tell you is maybe to them true, but not true to you? So someone might say, if you're branding maybe their shop, oh, our shop is like amazingly designed inside. It looks absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. We don't really need much help with that, Lisa. We just need the logo. And if you didn't see it and you just talked to them, you'd be like, well, that's fantastic. I just need to make this logo. We're going to be all good. But if you went to the little cupcake shop down in South Africa and saw it, you might be like, oh no, my friend.
You're going to need more help than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is.
I'll tell you another thing that I love about the in-person thing. You can't really hide, and you can bring your real expertise and your confidence in that, which someone who is masquerading as a designer cannot. So I'm thinking
that's so
here
true.
of,
Yes, good point.
A lot of the people who are perhaps undercutting everyone and offering their services incredibly cheaply and stuff like that. And we've talked about this. I do believe there's a place for it, and you can have the high end and low end designs and so on. But those people, I very much doubt, could actually sit in a meeting successfully and bring a load of expertise, whereas a higher end designer and a more experienced designer can. And the same thing goes for, like, if you're a horrible person, or if your intentions aren't right, or if you're kind of faking stuff online to have an impressive sounding portfolio, whatever it might be. There's no substitute for experience. So suddenly it becomes less competitive, because when you can sit down confidently and kind of guide them through it, you elevate yourself above the hordes of people online that you're actually having to compete with for business, where everyone and their mum is a designer.
Yeah, and I also want to add to that, even if you're new to the whole freelance thing, or not even freelance, any design thing, and you're not as confident in your work yet, the other benefit of meeting face to face is that you can relate to the person from a human point of view. So in other words, I'm not saying charm them into thinking that you're great, but at least apply, if they can see that you're a person and your intentions are true, you look like a hardworking person. In other words, you're still struggling to sell your work, so to speak, but at least they you come across that they can see you're a hardworking person, you want to help them, you are a nice person, that'll actually be to your benefit. And especially if you're struggling to really talk about your work and be confident in your work. But it's a way to, I guess it's also a way to train yourself how to eventually start speaking about your work more confidently. So these meetings face to face, it's kind of like it's like a training ground, so to speak. Well, that's how it was for me, because it's so much easier just to email somebody and say, this is my rate, this is my work I've done, here's my portfolio. You don't really need any skills there, how to relate to people. But sitting down with somebody and taking them through your portfolio and telling them what you can offer them, man, it's a short circuit to, like getting yourself into, speaking about your work. And I know a lot of designers struggle with that. So it's be a good way to at least get in there, to train.
I heard someone say a phrase about meeting someone, and they said sitting down and having a beer with someone is the equivalent of a year of talking on Twitter.
Oh, yes. I mean, exactly. It's so true,
It really is.
No, it's definitely. I think as a young designer, it's almost like a must. I don't know. That's what I think. It's just to relate to somebody else, to especially what we had a previous episode about non-designers, especially finding ways to explain to a non-designer what it is that you do and how you can help them. I think it's so much better doing it face to face. It's beneficial.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think another cool thing is draw on the stuff that isn't just about design. So it's basic people skills, but it's a lot easier when you have met in person, even once, to kind of get the ball rolling on that. So I hear this all the time. We've got Matt in our office, our creative director, who also has his creative agency, and they never start a client call with, okay, we have spec'd up the project and let's get immediately into it. It's always like, oh, like how's the family, and like, how's the weekend? Oh, did you go to that bar that I recommended? And oh, you went track racing, like that's amazing, that's a shared passion, we'll talk about that for 10 minutes. Like just general stuff. We're not robots, we are people at the end of the day, and you need that. I think you need that skill set. It's very similar to, we talked about the benefits of working from home versus in an office or with an agency. Similar kind of mindset, right? If you're only ever working at home, you're never seeing people, the only communication is through social media and email, you're not going to have a fully rounded set of skills socially, and it will be so beneficial for you. And actually, I think it makes your non-in-person communication better too.
Definitely.
So your emails will get better on the back of your in-person interactions.
Yeah, because you've done all the hard work when you met them, so you've done the groundwork, and then the next time you speak to them, they kind of know you better,
Well, and because of that, they're actually going to be more forgiving quite often.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and they know your tone of voice, so they know, oh, when he says this, he actually isn't sounding like a big dick. He's just, this is just how he talks.
That's just his sense of humor. Yeah, totally.
Do you know what I mean, though, Dustin, about the forgiving bit? Because if you're a faceless person on an email, it's kind of easy to lay into you.
Oh, true.
But if it's like, oh, that's like cool, that's cool, Dustin, and like, our kids played together while we like had a beer and talked about design, they're gonna like
much harder to be like, screw you.
Exactly, like they're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and kind of be more patient with you,
and they might pay you on time too. Sorry, carry on.
This could be maybe an entirely separate episode, but it might be worth mentioning this, because I suspect if I was listening to this, I'd be like, this is all great, but I actually can't meet with most of these people. And Tom, you're great at this, and I think we all probably have little ways we do this. w- what are ways that people can recreate the feeling of meeting someone in person when they can't, when it's just not possible, whether because they're just starting out and they don't have the budget, or because their customers just aren't around them, or they can't travel to where they are? What are some things we could offer up that help do that?
I think that's a great thought. Shall we do quick fire? And if necessary, we can go deeper on some points, but I kind of like when we like
Yeah.
rapid fire, just put
Sure.
out some suggestions. So to kick it off, try video chat, not always just audio.
Yeah.
So you're getting that simulation of face to face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could send. I once saw a guy's portfolio, and with it was a card that kind of broke down like stuff that he liked as a person, like his favorite food, his favorite color, like quirky things about yourself. You can send a client a gift and maybe add that in and say, this is a bit about me, kind of thing, so it just breaks the ice.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep it. Sorry, Dustin, actually, your turn.
Sure. Yeah. Real quick. Just, this is kind of what Lisa was saying. My friend Bob Ewing, who owns Inch by Inch, he sent me 3 posters just by surprise. He just sent them to me. And we've had some conversations, but that was like many conversations together getting that. And I'm not trying to solicit that people send me presents.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm just, although if you want it, you can.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when you send someone a gift, it feels like, oh, you took the time to roll these posters up and put them into a tube and find out what my address was without asking me even, and sending it to me. And I know that cost you a little bit of money to do that, or Tom has sent, like, around Christmas, he sent a Christmas basket.
Yes.
And my whole family, it's exciting. Everyone opens it up at the counter and the kids love it. And my wife is excited and I'm excited. And
yeah,
it just shows, hey, I'm taking enough time. You meant enough to me that I took the bit of time it took me to think about you and do something.
Exactly.
And that's worth a conversation, or maybe many conversations.
Yeah, completely. And it's also, it's breaking that digital divide.
Yeah.
So when something shows up on your doorstep, it might not be the person themselves, but if it's, a present with a handwritten note in their handwriting, it's kind of, you know what I mean? It makes it real. No longer am I just dealing with, someone on the other side of an email inbox. I'm dealing with a person.
Another great one you do is you have people that work for Design Cuts. They will do video tweets. I remember when I first I think I got like 2 of them at separate times from part of your team, and that meant so much to me. I remember seeing that and being like, I don't think anyone's ever sent me a video tweet. That was really nice. I know it didn't take long, but you had to think of doing it and then spend the time getting on a camera, which a lot of people don't like to do, and send it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's like that. It's so fast.
It also gives you insight into not only the person's personality who's doing the video, but also the company. So it does so many things, and it also, as I said, breaks the ice. So the people become people, and rather than, oh, it's just some online something out there,
So my next tip was going to be to actually use the right platforms for the right stuff. So what I mean by that is, a video chat obviously would be for something a bit longer, like the equivalent of a meeting you could have with a client. If you can't go face to face, you could chat for an hour and kind of screen share and stuff like that. Email would be perhaps a bit more in-depth than social media, but that isn't to say that social media is worse. It's just different. So you guys gave the example of a video tweet. Maybe if it was a client, you could just ping them something that was more like a fleeting thought or a bit more informal. So if you're doing like a formal email to them, you couldn't really get away with this. But if you also have them on Twitter, you could be like, oh, hey, saw this and thought of you. And it could be something that you discussed or one of their hobbies or something.
Yeah.
So it's about getting on their radar in different ways. It's like, but in all kinds of different extents. So you have the real long form version, you have the medium form email, you've got the quick little interactions here and there on social, and all of that kind of feels more like a real world relationship. When you add them all together, it's like we've got friends, right? Sometimes we just text each other, sometimes we have like a whole day together and have a deep chat, sometimes we just have a quick laugh about something. So you're kind of replicating that.
Oh,
I mean,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
and further to that, like if you know your client is going away on a holiday, because they said I need this now because I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks. Even though that's a bit of a crummy situation for you, you write that down, take note of the fact that they're going away. So then when they do
Hmm.
go away, the day they leave, you can send them a note, and then when they come back, you can welcome them back, and you can even take it one step further and actually send them a physical note. Depending on where they went, maybe some quirky little, I don't know, illustration of a cocktail or something. It's just like put in a bit of effort just to show them, you were thinking of them, and yeah, it's like you part of their, well, you try and be part of their whole situation more than just work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people who possibly work alone, don't have the support of a team, they struggle with this stuff.
Mm.
It's like, well, that's only something big companies can do,
Mm-mm.
but it's not. You can. My answer is always do it to whatever scale you
Yeah,
can. So
exactly.
if you
Hmm.
can do it for 3 people, then that's better than 0
Yeah.
people. And you're not going to have thousands of
Mm-mm.
clients, most people listening. You
Right.
probably have a small handful, so you can go deep and you can go
Yeah.
personal. And if it's an issue of time and money, it's like, well, just reallocate that. So, maybe take some of the money out of Google ads that you were going to run, or some crappy flyers that you were going to spam people's
Or
letterboxes
or
with.
business cards that would probably get thrown away.
Exactly.
Exactly. And reallocate that
Yeah.
money, and then reallocate the time. Just work smart and kind of free up 30 minutes a day on this stuff.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way.
And two, if you really focus in on something, I've noticed you can really streamline it. So, like you said, I don't have like a big team or a big budget for stuff like this, but we went to Moo cards and bought like these cool retro supply cards, right? Just have a little character on it and a place to write in the back, like a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
Made a stamp with the address, with the return address to save time of having to rewrite that over and over. Have stamps in there, and they're all just sitting in a little compartment in my shelf here. And then I can just pull it out, grab a pen, write each one, stamp, 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 throw some stickers in, and send it off. It takes a half an hour to do, 15 of them. And you've just gotten a little bit of an edge above other people, and
Exactly.
it's personal.
Yeah.
It feels good too. It just feels really good to
It
do
does.
something.
I was going to say it's fun. It's not like a big horrible effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Okay, so how about that's some ways to make working remotely better. Are there any other kind of upsides or downsides to working remotely with clients? Because I do predict that most people listening probably don't have the face-to-face thing, because I think the majority of people do work online now and they do work remotely with clients. So are there any standout things with the remote working?
Well, for me, in my short experience of that, because as I said, most of my work was, face to face. The the brief part is so important, because I think you make a lot of assumptions when clients leave out gaps in their brief. So it's so important not to just jump to conclusions and assume that they mean X, Y, and Z. Rather ask, rather just literally like go through 1,000 questions if you have to, because it's going to save you time in the long run. I think that's super important.
Yeah, so maybe if you're stuck on something, you say, hey, do you mind if we jump on a call? I just want to be 1,000% clear.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say if you can't meet with someone, which you most of the time can't, I always like to meet through video chats. And I used to feel so uncomfortable with video chats. I remember the first 10 I did, it was so awkward and I felt so self-conscious having myself on a video. But it's now, if someone wants to just do a phone call, I'll actually request, is it okay if we do a video? And they don't always, but seeing someone and looking them in the eyes and seeing how they move in real life just helps you get a decent sense of them. So if there was one thing I think has made a difference for my business, it's been just get used to doing video calls. If you're going to make a phone call with someone, just make it a video call. It takes just as much time to set up as calling on a cell phone. In fact, with iPhones, you can do FaceTime even.
Yeah, 1,000%. Although I'll give you one downside to video calls. I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but
I'm afraid of what you're going to say.
Me too. Yeah. But...
You're like, I can't do it naked.
Yeah.
Oh no, I do that anyway. They understand. No, it's when your internet connection falters and it freeze frames on
Oh,
you.
that's horrible.
And
And you pulling some hideous face.
invariably you look like you're midway through a seizure. And so you're having like this serious client chat, and suddenly it's like gurning face. And they're faced with that for like 45 seconds or whatever. It kind of throws off your like professional rapport that you're building.
That is so
Why do
true.
those things always freeze when you look the worst?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like they freeze on me when I make the most horrible look.
I don't know why.
No, I'll tell you why. It's because I've been doing a lot of video content recently. And so I have to often skim through like a 3-minute video to find one thumbnail. And
Okay.
there's normally like half a second out of 3 minutes where I look like a normal human being. And the entire rest of the time, it's like, thank goodness when I'm actually talking to people, my face is constantly moving and hopefully appears normal. Because if I freeze mid-speech...
So what you're saying is like almost every millisecond you're pulling some hideous face. Oh my
So it's just like it's like a law of numbers. It's just
Yeah.
1 in 300 chance that you're going to get a good looking.
Oh, that's
freeze
so
frame.
good.
I don't know if that's normal for everyone, but certainly for me, I'm like, oh, really? It's like, that's how I look when my face is moving.
Well, I recently recorded my niece's quinceañera, I believe is how you say it, and I used my camera and I had the high speed, where you push down and it just keeps taking rapid photos.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was probably exactly the numbers you're talking about, Tom. You would just have a massive amount of horrible pictures, and then there'd be like one little gem in there where everyone's eyes are open, everyone's smiling,
Yeah.
no drool or food is on the edge of someone's mouth.
Well, I've found this. We've had a few team photos at work, and the bigger the team gets, the harder it is, because if you've got a line of 10 people, you can guarantee at least 2 of them are pulling a horrendous face. So it got to the point where I'd have to Photoshop stitch like 5 photos together to ensure that
Yes.
everyone looked normal. I think we had 56 photos
my
of the team in a
goodness.
line, and there was one that was usable.
Well, if you think about it, what are the chances that everyone's eyes would be open?
Yeah, exactly. People are like blinking. Half of them are sort of half blink, so they're like winking. Yeah. It's like you've got half the team look asleep, the other half looks suggestive, and there's like one
That's
classic.
normal person in the midst.
So I will say I'm jumping subjects a little bit, but I know most people can't meet in person, but if I could like list a couple things that really worked for me, conferences are one that I thought I didn't understand. And now that I've done them, I realize how important they are. So if you can't meet with clients, go to at least 1 or 2 conferences. It doesn't matter which ones. You don't have to go to the big, expensive $2,500 conference. You can go, around here, we have Creative South for like, I don't know, $400, $300. Those are a great way to meet some people in person. And true, it's not business to like other outside of the graphic design realm clients,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll meet people that often can become people that contract you to do stuff for them, for their clients and things like that. I've never gone to a conference and not at least gotten one business partner that has increased the amount of money I've made that following year. So
I kind of want to pick your brain on this because I've never done it and I really want to. So would you say you go there and you're like talking to everyone and like really trying to be proactive and like network, or does it just happen naturally because you're a friendly guy?
it's so natural. It's just it's like every one of them I've gone to, if you just make sure you can find like 1 or 2 friends that that are going, so you have someone to anchor with, so you don't feel like you're all by yourself, you'll just naturally find conversations, and everyone's there for them. So I don't like go around. Some people like to work a room, but I tend to just find like a group that I relate to and think of it like summer camp and just have fun. And I found like partners just by doing that. One year I met a guy named Jason Karn, and he was a lettering artist, and he was really into like black metal, and he was really into like getting a perfect record player and into the perfect audiophile, that's what you call him. And he was just such a cool dude, and we just hung out. I hung out with him a ton. We had a lot of late nights where we hung out and just got ice cream late at night and did things, and we ended up selling something called the Lettering Library together. And it was not because
Was that him?
in part because it was a good relationship, but it was probably because we were like eating ice creams or drinking some beers, and he said, hey, you know what, like we should like try partnering up, which tends to happen after you've had some ice creams or breakfasts with people and talked about your family. So do it. Like it's so powerful.
Yeah, that made me think of another benefit. I think when people are online, they're so used to being spammed that they're naturally on their defensive.
Oh, that's so true.
And in real life, it's not like we walk around completely guarded all the time. So if we're walking around our peers and people we get on with, it's the opposite. It's like we're looking to meet people. We're looking for that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And online, someone talks to us and we instantly assume the worst. It's like, what are they going to sell me? What are they going to pitch me?
It's like opposite land, because on email, if you try to like propose to someone that you work together, they don't answer you. They feel uncomfortable or untrustworthy of you. But when you go to a conference or any real life event with other people, they will literally be like, hey, we should work together, because they see you. And like exactly like you're saying, they see you and they're like, oh, you're not
A spammer.
this person in like a little room trying to like extract money from people
Yeah.
secretly or something, you know?
Yeah, so true.
Ian, any comments, Ian? We've got a little dead space here.
Ian, you're a little quiet there.
Yeah, come on, pipe up, mate. I was this close to impersonating him, but I think he'd kill me next time.
So wish you would have.
I am going quiet because I'm sending an email to myself with a reminder to actually research conferences to go to. So I'm proof that we take our own advice here. It's something that I thought about before, but talking it through with you now, Dustin, it's like, okay, I need to actually pull my finger out and go to one.
Yeah, I've never. You wonder why people go to them, and now that I've been to one, I'm like thinking, even if you are brand new to design, you don't have anything big to show for yourself yet because you're just starting, that's even a better time to go. I've seen so many people that are fresh out of design school, don't have a big developed portfolio or a lot of connections. They will go and get the type of connections that other people that never go to conferences, it takes them 3 or 4 years to get. Just because they're there, someone will be like, hey, I know you're young, I know you just started, but I really like you. You have some promise.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get some great stuff. So it's good for everybody. Sounds like I work for the National Conference Association. But I've just been such a convert because it's been so great for me.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. See you lucky.
You need a slogan, Dustin. Conferences where things happen. Okay, I'm not going to go into the slogan business.
Tom, do you go to meetups or anything? I've always wondered. That's one thing I haven't done is local meetups. And I always wonder if...
No, and this is where Ian would be very useful because he actually hosts a few. He does like coffee for designers, I think, and a lettering one. And he goes to quite a few. I've been to a couple of entrepreneurial ones, and I don't know if it's... I think I'd prefer a design one because designers are kind of cool and creative, and entrepreneurs can be a little bit sleazy, especially the ones that go to meetups. So like everyone's there with name tags, and I was like, oh, like I'm a sociable guy, like I love meeting people, but it didn't feel that natural. No. So it's somewhat similar to you, Dustin. I ended up befriending like I think 3 people there who were like the normal people, and we just went and got drunk in the corner.
Exactly. Which is what I think a conference should be, or any type of meetup.
Oh goodness.
Lisa's shaking her head a ton, being like, yes.
Is where you're trying to extract yourself from the conversation.
Sounds like my bag.
Yeah, it's trying to work out. You're like, are we the nerds sat over here, or are we like the cool kids?
Well, and another cool thing too is little plug for Weapons of Mass Creation Fest is coming up in exactly a month. And by the way, Weapons of Mass Creation Fest, you should have the Honest Designers come to your thing next year, please. It'd be so cool.
Are you talking about the Go Media conference?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about the Go Media conference?
Yes. Yeah.
See, I know those guys like pretty well. We worked together for years, and I would love to go to their conference. I think we even sponsored it a few years back.
I've went 2 years and I've loved it. I'm speaking this year. It's my first time speaking at a conference, but I've loved it both years, and perfect example of why it's so cool and these smaller conferences are so neat. Not that it's super small, but it's just not massive like Adobe Max or something. And when you go, they have a hostel, not I mean, they don't own it, but it just happens to be a hostel in the area. And tons of people fill it up that are just going to that conference. And the hostel is amazing. Like, you go and you hang out in the evenings on the roof and talk to all sorts of different designers. You
sounds so
go to the
cool.
kitchen in the middle of the night and you sit around on the old couches and talk about design. One time we were there was like a national yo-yo convention. So there were all these professional yo-yoers like warming up in there.
That is
And then you
awesome.
all jump in cars together and go to the conference and, you know, buy merch and talk to designers that are your heroes and hear people talk. But that's another reason it's actually easy to meet people, because lots of times people don't have the money to spend $400 or $200 a night for a hotel room. They go to places like hostels, and then you're just hanging out. It's like summer camp. It's great. So if you don't have a weapons of mass creation thing, you should go this year. Tom, actually, you both should go this year.
We should.
I can get you a free.
Well,
I got a free ticket.
Oh, really?
You just have to fly across the ocean.
Yeah, just have to get there. 20,000
I
rand
wish we were
later.
based in America.
Just fly across the
Yeah.
ocean and we'll be good.
Okay, again, Go Media, if you are listening, the honest designers would bring the noise to your conference. So yeah, this episode's kind of gone slightly off on a conferencing tangent, but it's fun to talk about. And I think hopefully for a lot of people listening, if you've been on the fence or didn't even think about conferences, it would be worth checking out to hopefully bring things back into the arena of clients for a second though. Have we got any closing thoughts on the client thing? I mean, I started this episode and I thought it was going to be probably more balanced, where it's like, well, there's benefits to remote working and there's benefits to in person. It sounds like we're leaning massively towards in person if you can, and if you can't, trying to replicate in person.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. I would say if you can't do the in person for obvious reasons, do your very best to at least try and, you know, develop the same way you would in person online, and whether it's as we just discussed, all the little things you can do, mailing them, sending them videos, sending them gifts. You know, you got to make them feel like they're your friend, I guess, as best you can.
Yeah, no, really, treat them like a friend.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And like I said before, talk about stuff outside of work.
exactly.
Like start bringing that conversation or those conversations into your main interactions.
There's that saying, we buy from people we like.
Exactly.
That's where I've been going wrong. I need to stop being such a dick.
But is that true?
Damn. But, all right, I'm making a note. Be more likable.
And I'm the
Damn.
exception. Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm the exception to the rule. Oh, people buy from people they don't like because they seem to be buying from me.
Oh,
Aw.
you guys are too
It's all
hard
right,
on yourselves.
Let's have a pity party. And then you got sweet Lisa Glanz.
If only they knew.
If they only
Yeah.
knew. The real Lisa Glantz.
Cool. So closing thoughts for everyone. Basically, just draw a bit of focus, I think, to the people skills. And we've talked about clients quite a lot on this show, but certainly don't be scared of them.
Mhm.
And the best way not to be scared of them is to stop thinking of them as clients and start
Mhm.
thinking of them as people.
Yep.
And just break down those walls and build proper relationships.
Yeah.
No matter how you can talk to them, it's all about the relationship.
Don't worry about impressing them as much, I think, as worry about just trying to have a real, genuine connection with them.
Yeah. And if you have an opportunity to meet in person instead of just email, definitely take the opportunity. It's worth it in the long run, for sure.
And if you can, try and get them drunk.
That-
That was left field.
Really helps. They're sign anything.
I like
It's
that.
that-
And
I don't
sign
think that's
anything.
very rarely hurt. I think many business deals have been made between drunk people at bars.
That is true.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Hopefully it gave you some good pointers for how to work better with your clients, and maybe it even convinced you to try your first design conference. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes. as this is one of the best ways for your fellow creatives to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on the Honest Designer Show.